We are no longer physicians. We're providers.
Ask your baby's permission.
Gay people, you have become a product. Should auto insurance cover STD? Are you freaking kidding me? So you demean us. You don't get a parade for a sexual preference. To not hurt the feelings of somebody with a fraction of my training. That a beaver's ass presented this to the world. It's a natural flavor. But you are literally an ice cube in a martini shaker. Hello, and welcome back to Doctales with Cocktails. A little bit earlier in the day, we're coming to you from the incredibly snowy, I would actually call it the snowpocalypse.
Yeah, so any guesses what's in my cocktail shaker cup here today? It was
Magma to warm up.
cocoa.
Yes. Our son lives in the panhandle of Florida, and they got 7.5 inches of snow.
I said to him,
7.5
welcome to
inches.
Florida, your first winter here. Snow in Florida.
They have pictures of, that gigantic welcome to Florida sign, that really, it's just like all snow.
What a way to remember your first year in Florida.
Yes. And it's, I don't know, what is it? It's 55 outside or something. It feels like minus 700 though.
The dampness. There's nothing like that damp, cold air to make you feel extra cold. I don't know. It's different than the dry, like the dry heat, only the dry dampness.
There's also
the wet dampness.
There's also nothing like being used to 80 being cold for 55 and 40 mile an hour winds to feel really cold. Strange how that is.
We're turning into big wussies.
Big wussies.
But you're going skiing next week, so
it's different though. It's dry, and then you're dressed for it, and then you're in a snowy environment, and then you come inside
and you're exercising and getting all hot and sweaty and warm and
right. I'm not walking.
Imbibing in all those après ski cocktails that heat you up.
That's right. No, you got it. You have completely understand me. So
lovely scarf you're wearing today.
Yes.
For the people watching on the sidelines, his red, white, and blue Washington Capitals? No, Washington.
No, this is my Trump inauguration from when I went to the inauguration 8 years ago. So we're going to talk a lot about that and some of the stuff that's gone on and some things that I think are hilariously funny and probably, I think, good. You can disagree. You're always free to disagree. And one thing that came out yesterday on day 2 of the presidency that is potentially the most horrifying thing I've ever heard in my entire life. And we're going to talk about that most extensively because that, I think, is absolutely terrible.
Yeah, as soon as I heard it, I'm like, make America healthy again. How is this going to make America healthy again?
No, it's.
I think not.
Yeah, we'll save that. So I've just been reading Jeff Childers' Coffee and COVID article this morning. It's a tremendous Substack. If you don't subscribe to it, I highly recommend it. It is very good. He does a very good news analysis every morning, and it's a little snarky and very insightful from a mostly conservative perspective. I really like it. And he was talking about how Trump basically took a gigantic flamethrower to all of the DEI stuff. If you're in government or you contract with government, you can't do anything with DEI. And if you try to disguise it, there will be serious consequences. So he came in, he had all of this stuff pre-written out, all of the executive orders down to the last detail. And it's like, see you later, DEI. Done. Like, this is stuff that would have taken 10 plus years in lawsuits to get rid of and arguing. And he just washed it. It's gone so fast. And he's making the departments that have DEI in them do the work of exercising it. So it's completely gone. Like, they're going to have to exercise it out before they even have a chance to sue. It's absolutely brilliant. So that one was good. Getting out of the WHO. That just wrote, we are out of the WHO. We are not in the World Health Organization. They take our money. We don't like them. We're not giving them money. Screw you, WHO. Horton, here's a WHO. Oh, no, he doesn't. Not anymore. It's gone. That one was pretty amazing. I mean, I think he signed like 200, and we've only scratched the surface. It is so fast and so aggressive. It's amazing.
What are they? I mean, though, explain for people, what are going to be the consequences of being out of that?
Well, we don't have to deal with their bullshit anymore. Their dictums and their whatever, and we want to have a WHO treaty and we want to set health policy for the world. All that's gone. And it basically will cripple the World Health Organization. The only person left funding it's going to be Bill Gates. Because it's the United States.
So how's it going to cripple their funding? Because Bill Gates is the funding.
No, it's because the United States is the vast majority of the funding.
I thought Gates was.
No, he's the highest, I think, contributor of a private entity. But it's governments, right? It's like if the United States pulled out of the United Nations, there'd be no United Nations. If the United States pulled out of NATO, there'd be no NATO because we pay for most of it. And so it's done. Like you could literally, Trump could go and say, no more UN, we're out of the UN. Don't like the UN. UN building's going to be Trump Plaza 2 on the banks of the river in New York, and turn it into a gigantic casino. And the UN just ceases to exist because they can't fund themselves. And they have no power because the only power they ultimately have is using the US military to kick people's ass. So like what? They don't like Russia anymore. I mean, the UN would then just be a Chinese arm of the Chinese Communist Party, which, no one would listen to. So it like all of this stuff is like they make it sound good, right? Like they make it sound like it's the world and we are the world and we're holding hands and singing Kumbaya and all this. And I mean, and Trump's seen through this for his entire career. It's all bullshit. It's all supported by the United States. So if they want to exist, they basically have to do what we want. So get rid of it. Like this, I mean, like when you look at some of the atrocities over the years that have been perpetrated under the blue helmets of the United Nations, it's staggering. Peacekeepers. What the hell's a peacekeeper? I mean, you don't have what? Like that's an international police force. Oh, when has that ever turned out poorly? Star Wars, maybe? I mean, it's just, anyways, I love it. This part of
You're right. I pulled this data sheet up on the U.S. Well, that's a chart showing the contributions to the WHO. U.S. at one.
No, that's billion because that's thousand millions. 1,284,000 million.
1.3. Yeah, 1.3 billion, right? But the U.S., Germany, 856 million is second. Bill and Melinda Gates are in third place.
This is the WHO.
Yes. So Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation.
Yeah, but look at this. It gets really bad. Then it's Gavi.
Is assessed from 22 to 23.
Right. So
and then it's 830 million from them, and then 481 from Gavi.
Right. Well, Gavi is another one of these international, vaccine research, whatever things. And then frickin' Rotary International.
What?
If nothing would make me not become a Rotarian, it would be that they give 177 million to the World Health Organization. Good job, guys.
They are like 8. They're right behind Canada.
Yeah, they're right behind Canada. Canada's 204 million.
Look at that.
So take that 1.284 billion off the top and now
Germany's
wipe it away.
Charge.
The Germans are in charge.
Germans and the Gates.
Oh, the Germans and Bill Gates are in charge of a World Health Organization. What could possibly go wrong? What if the Germans fucked with health before? What has that ever happened? Oh my gosh. What could it be? You can't make it up. It's just like when Pfizer had their main human testing for the Pfizer jab was in Argentina. Literally the place where Joseph Mengele fled from Europe at the end of World War II. And all of these Nazis hung out in Argentina, right? Okay. And where Rudolf Hess was kidnapped by the Mossad in like the early 60s, like the whole deal. And their main testing ground was Argentina. And then Pfizer had an exclusive contract for the jabs with Israel. I'm like, what? Hey, when have the Jews ever been screwed by German scientists before? You can't make this up. You can't make this up.
So going back to Gavi.
That's unbelievable.
Gavi, I did not know this. Officially, Gavi, the Vaccine Alliance, the global
Alliance of Vaccine Institutes or something like that.
Public/private global health partnership, mostly funded by Bill and Melinda Gates, I believe.
Right. So it's America, it's Germany, it's Bill and Melinda Gates, it's Bill and Melinda Gates by another name with their specific vaccine-oriented institute, and then it's a bunch of other countries, and then it's Rotary.
Yeah.
You can't make this up.
Wow.
Yeah, no, it is truly.
You're forgetting our British friends, the UK and Canada.
Well, the UK gives
European
almost
Commission.
double what Canada gives.
Right. Well, anyway,
if they had a World Orthodontia, whatever, it would be worth the UK to put that money in to straighten their teeth.
Priorities, though.
That's right.
It's
easier to floss when they're crooked.
That's true. Nothing like having your teeth straightened and all tight in a nice little row, not get that floss in there.
Okay, so let's get on to the most terrifying thing I've heard in a long time.
All right.
Okay, so we're actually at Bible study last night, and one of my buddies is like, man, have you heard about the Stargate AI cancer vaccine? They're going to cure everybody. And I'm like, okay, well, that sounds kind of weird. So I researched it. So there's this Stargate AI that Trump is kind of doing a public-private partnership, mostly private money, from this, I forget which company it is, not SAP, something like that. This Asian dude that's putting in $200 million. And then Larry Ellison from Oracle is involved. And then the guy that's the head of OpenAI is involved. So they're building these 500,000 square foot buildings. And I think they have 10 of them that they're building. And these are going to be like the giant server farms / power supplies or whatever for this giant AI project, Stargate. Okay. That makes sense to me because AI is already long out of the, that cat is so far out of the bag, it's not even funny. So do you want one of our adversaries to take control of AI, or are we going to do it by harnessing private industry, the private brain trust, the guys that have already been working on this? No brainer. The United States should be the home of this. Okay. So that's all fine and good, but they have to sell this to the public. And so they did it by two ways. They're like, $500 billion investment is coming in. We're going to do more than 100,000 jobs because they have to build these massive server farms and, power plants and whatnot. So 100,000 jobs. And then it's going to change the world. Well, how is it going to change the world? Well, so Larry Ellison comes out and he says, we'll be able to do blood tests on people and take their blood and put it into the AI and predictively look at different factors in their blood and determine what kind of cancer they could potentially get or what kind of cancer they will get given enough time. And then within 48 hours, they will produce an mRNA vaccine for that blood factor and then immunize you. And it will be specifically for you because they'll have tailor-made the mRNA using AI and robots specifically for you, and then you won't get cancer. Well, I heard that, and I was like, whoa, let's just pump the brakes on that, like just a little, okay? First of all, does everybody want like the world's largest AI to have all of their genetic information? I don't
even want Ancestry DNA.
No.
23andMe to have mine.
I don't even go to a physician that has that takes insurance so that anything, like none of it can be fed back into the system and into insurance companies.
But they sold it, the little bit I listened to. Well, it's going to be great because, if you're at the Aboriginal physician in the middle of nowhere, and then they can just remote in and have access to all the records and
Okay.
latest stuff from
The second I
Harvard or
the second I heard
Johns
that,
Hopkins so
Okay.
that they can customize your treatment. And I'm like,
the second I heard that, you absolutely know that that's lying. And how do you know that? Because if they're remoting in the knowledge of like all of the AI and all of what physicians have done to a guy on an Indian reservation, which is exactly what he said, why do you need the guy?
Exactly.
You don't. All you need is somebody like a public health nurse and the algorithm that prints out what to do. You don't need the physician at all. And that's been my contention.
That's what's going to happen.
That's been my contention, is if you're going to see an algorithmic thinking doctor that just thinks in algorithms, get rid of them and just have the AI, because the AI is way better at algorithms than any human being. Get rid of the interface. You don't need the interface anymore. You don't need the human interface. If that's the case.
For some things, we've talked about this before. I think gosh, you can go on Amazon Help, which is almost probably the same thing, for your UTI or your ear infection or your pink eye. You almost don't need a human for that.
No, you absolutely don't need a human. They get in the way.
Fine.
They get in the way. Like 99% of urgent care right now should be done with a robot. It makes perfect sense. Here's your symptoms. Here's your
there's way more to this than doing it in the name of altruism to be helping patients customize their
especially when you look at like who runs the WHO. It's Bill Gates, one of the biggest eugenicists in the world. This guy doesn't want people cured. He wants less people. Larry, I don't know where Larry Ellison stands on there. I think he's probably more normal, but I know very little about him.
What was the technology? Talk about the RNA technology.
Okay, well, it's what we've gone through for the last 4 years. It's mRNA technology. So then they'll find whatever factor is being produced by the cancer cell, right? And then they'll make a vaccine that's against that factor. So then your body will crank out antibodies to that and kill the vaccine or kill the cancer before you get cancer, which sounds fantastic if they can make it work. But how would you study this? Because to actually study this in actual human beings, because it's predictive, you're not treating cancer that already exists. Like you're not looking at a tumor that you took out. It's predictive. You're treating something, you're preventing it before it happens. So that means to actually study that, you would have to have 10,000 people in one group and 10,000 in another. So the 10,000, they get the AI-generated vaccines, and the other 10,000 get a placebo. And then you would have to watch them for the totality of their life to see who gets more cancer and who gets more side effects, because you don't know. You don't know if they never get cancer, but they get unrelenting left anal itching that makes you insane because of some side effect from the treatment. And that's the problem. I think there's a naivete in these tech geeks. They take everything, and Gates has been entirely guilty of this. They take biology and they just think biology is super complicated math. And Brent Weinstein has done a tremendous discussion with Tucker Carlson about this, is the difference between complex systems and complicated systems. So an Apple Watch, a computer, a car is complicated. So you know everything about it because you engineered it. So you can take a computer apart and you can go, this chip does this and this capacitor does whatever, and the battery has this much power and blah, blah, blah. It's very, very complicated. It's not complex. The problem with biology is we think we know something about biology until we try it out, and then we realize what we don't know, which was way more than what we knew in the first place.
I'm sure there's going to be a whole lineup of people just for after what we went through with the last round of mRNA injections. I'm sure people are not going to be.
And I'm not
and
I'm not ascribing motive, right? Because we get into this. We get a lot of people, especially in the medical freedom world, and it's like, it's a one world government. There's just two guys and it's the Illuminati. And I'm just like, honestly, I don't think so. I think sometimes it looks that way, but I think that Trump and Larry Ellison and OpenAI and all these, they could have the most altruistic, best motives in the world, and they could still be 100% wrong, and this could still end up being unbelievably dangerous and unbelievably evil, because as it's produced, it kind of becomes its own thing. And the unpredictability with this machine learning, I think, is a huge problem. I mean, a huge problem. And this idea that, like, you're gonna have to sell it to the public, and I don't know that there's, I mean,
Can
there'll
you
be a lot
imagine
of people that are gonna buy it, but isn't it?
injecting, like, literally, when you read what they said, that they could sequence that cancer tumor in 48 hours specific to that person, design the vaccine, that mRNA vaccine goes into their body, and you can make that robotically, again, using AI in 48 hours, injecting all these people with little nanobot technology. Creates a new world of
Well
nanobot humans.
well, if I get to be the nanobot from Michael Crichton's book, from about 20 years ago, Prey, where basically the nanobots took over your entire biology, and, the one woman comes to work and she's, like, becoming more attractive and super muscular and way smarter because the nanobots just took over everything. That one I might sign up
I mean,
for that.
think about it. If the root cause is genetics, because that's what they're looking at, your genetics, and then all the lifetime insults that you've had, whether it's foods, poisons, toxins, smoking, all the things you've had in your lifetime that have altered your genetics to cause the cancer cells to grow. And they go in there and shoot you with this thing that's going to change your genetics back. Then it can change your genetics any way they want to when they inject it.
Yep.
And that means
Yep.
you are no longer who you thought you were.
Yep. 'Cause
Like,
clearly,
why would you trust? So you could trust that they're just turning that cancer gene off, and maybe they'll do something else. I mean, because there's always nefarious, evil doctor, evil people in the world. So literally, they could change who you are with an injection.
well, they are changing who you are, and they're telling you that they're changing you who
Well,
you
they're
are, because they're changing your
they're changing you back to who you were
they're changing your
when you first came out of the
susceptibility.
womb, fresh genetics back to who you were.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
I don't
And
know.
so it's very frightening because
They're gonna be doing my genetics, and I'll be getting the asshole vaccine, like, absolutely
they'll give you
guaranteed
one that
100%.
stops you from talking.
Shut up!
Oh, by the way, you have to share that comment. We love your comments, feedback, and we had an interview recently. The interview that we did with, can you remember her name? Shoot, on coaching women through
Oh, that
career
was
changes.
awesome.
And I've drawn a blank on her name. That's terrible. Anyway, someone watched it on YouTube because I think they were a fan of hers, or they were going through their own struggles with career changes, and they loved the interview and the video, but the comment and feedback was, but the lady needs to let the man talk more. I think I was interrupting. That's what it was. Shouldn't interrupt to let you talk more.
Yeah.
We had a good laugh over that because
Yeah.
if you know us well, usually I'm trying to interrupt so I can't talk.
Yeah,
So anyway.
you have PTSD.
Anyway, it was funny because,
You have
in that episode, maybe I did keep cutting you off, and that's not professional, but the whole thing made us laugh. So we love the feedback. And now I'm cognizant
but
of not cutting you off.
there'll be an mRNA injection for that very soon, because AI will do that.
What, not cutting you off?
Yeah. Could I please get the girthy wiener vaccine, please?
I'm sure. I'm sure you could. That's called Cialis.
Yeah. I don't know. I wouldn't know. But yeah, it's just it just like, I knew this was going to happen. I've discussed this with some of my friends. We're going to be all excited, like Maha stuff and the inauguration and whatever. And I knew it was going to happen, which is like, it wasn't going to take long. And also we're like, okay, what the hell's he doing to this? Anyways, it is that, I think, Like, it literally is science fiction that makes my mouth dry, I get so nervous.
So that was quite a disappointment anyway after the pomp, circumstance, and excitement of day one, right?
Yeah, but
Um,
we have to get ahead on AI. Like, we absolutely there isn't a choice. And then I think I think what happens is it's like any of this stuff, it's going so fast, they get ahead of their skis. They get over their skis a little bit on this stuff,
well, didn't
and
he
they
do
don't
that with
roll
the
it out.
previous mRNA?
Well, but that's the problem. And
Trump did
I've had this
Trump did
discussion with,
that. He got all excited and
but I,
got ahead of himself,
it,
and well, look what
but
happened.
exactly. And I've had this discussion with lots of people. My issue is not with mRNA technology at all. Zero. Okay. The issue is it may be the greatest platform in the world. It may cure cystic fibrosis. It may cure cancer. It might. It might. Okay. So this idea that you're like pro or anti or get all tribal about this is dumb. That's not the issue. My issue is bad science. And you have to do biological science in a certain way, because the underlying humility that you knew to do medical studies and biology correctly is we don't know what we don't know. That's the problem. So you can't predict it. It's not the graph of how quickly you can double knowledge with computer memory or any of that stuff. That's not the issue. But engineering and biology are they're both sciences, but that's the only thing that's similar, is that it's both sciences. They're vastly different. And biology must be literally tempered with spiritual humility of, we don't know what we're effing with. We need to be very careful. And when you get these guys that are billionaires that have cranked out all sorts of crazy ass technology that's worked and made people's lives better, they're like, well, we can just do this and make it and transfer it to biology and it'll be fine. And the answer is it might be, if you study it correctly, or it might be the monkey's paw.
Mhm.
Remember the Edgar Allan Poe, where she gets the monkey's paw, which is supposed to grant her 3 wishes, and she gets a notice that her son has died in an industrial accident, and she wishes on the paw that her son would be alive. Well, of course, he comes back to life as a mangled person that was put through the machinery of, you know, early 20th or late 18th century world. So he comes back to life and he's just a complete monster.
I forgot about that
Because
movie, yeah.
because she said, well, I want him alive. Well, he's alive, but he's alive the way he died. So now he is a monster.
She didn't there's a bunch of those kind of
Right.
funny, not memes, but stories, allegories about people not wishing the right way, or being careful what you wish for, or
Well, but that's
come back
exactly
to
what
bite.
this is.
Yeah,
This
exactly.
is the biggest be careful what you wish for.
Right.
And that's the problem. See, I'm a huge pro nuclear guy. I think nuclear power, if we're going to do AI, which I think we have to, we don't really have a choice now. If you're going to do AI, you're going to have nuclear power. It's the only way you're going to power it, because it takes a ton.
Mhm.
The problem with 3 Mile Island and Chernobyl and all this stuff from 40 years ago is we got, after World War II and the bomb, we started the Atomic Energy Commission and all this. We want to use the atom for peace. So, well, we have ability to produce limitless electricity for basically nothing, except, whoopsie, they didn't have enough redundancy in the systems in the late 70s, and they didn't know what the hell to do with the nuclear waste, because the reactors back then produced a ton of waste. So we have these two gigantic problems. Like, if it runs out of water, it burns a hole in the earth, and no one gets to live in Ohio for the next 700,000 years. Oh, and it produces a shit ton of nuclear waste, which we have to transport someplace far away. And what if you get a train derailment? Like, I mean, it just, so there's these huge issues that were never really solved. So then you inevitably end up with two gigantic disasters. One in the Soviet Union, which was a real problem. I mean, that was 1986, and no one lives there today. and then, 3 Mile Island was that in Pennsylvania or Ohio or wherever that was. Okay, so the 3 Mile Island didn't melt down. They managed to contain it. That was a near miss. So what happened with nuclear is they got ahead of the technology. They started to send the technology out and use it as power before it had matured to a point where it was good.
Well,
I'm scared.
I don't know.
I'm scared.
The theme is this happens all the time with everything. People,
Well, I think this is what we've done with mRNA. Exactly. mRNA may be great. I'm not anti lipid nanoparticle or any of this stuff. I think it may be fantastic. We don't know yet. And so far, it's been, I'll just say this so we don't get kicked off of whatever. It's been, shall we say, in British understatement, a problem. Okay? So we tried to solve a problem and we made a bigger problem because we let the technological cat out of the bag too soon. And it may have been a technology that once it had matured, we were like, this is crap. We can't make it work and it doesn't work. But you let the cat, and that, because
nothing like a pandemic to make you freak out and
I know, but the problem is
blow your technology load too soon.
Well, yeah, they need Paxil, but the problem was nuclear power is super important and we need to use it, but we're like 40 years behind because we, discharged it too soon and freaked everybody out. And politically, it was impossible to use. You watch, mark my words, within the next 5 years, there's going to be so much pro-nuclear propaganda, it's not even going to be funny. It's going to be like playing an episode of Fallout. We're going to have Nuka-Cola and Nuka this and Nuka that. And
you're right.
Because they have to have it.
For the AI to work.
To feed the machine, you have to have it.
Good time to invest in some nuclear technology.
Well, exactly.
Okay, well, that was a very good, detailed dissertation that you laid out for our listeners.
Good. And now are we going to go learn I'm going to go learn how to play canasta.
Wow, that's quite a change. Anything else from the week you want to highlight?
Not so far. I mean, it's been interesting. I got some kind of sickness last week that, holy smokes, don't get that.
It's going around.
Whew, man, I don't know what it is.
Hard to avoid. It's all over. I mean, flu, the sea illness, all that stuff. Non-flu, non-sea, all kinds of crazy viruses. 'Tis the season. It's winter. It's what happens every year. But this one seems to be extra long. So we hope you all are taking your vitamin C, zinc, D, and staying healthy, keeping your sugar content down, booze content down, doing some exercise, getting fresh air, getting sunlight, getting sleep, and visiting with your friends, family, and social connections, all those things that keep you healthy, right?
That's right.
So
I think that's a wrap for this week.
All right. So coming up in the show, guest interviews this week. We're going to just leave it a surprise so that you stay tuned and check it out. As always, please send us your comments and feedback, positive, negative. We love it all. We love to hear your thoughts. We want to know if you think I'm talking too much and interrupting him. If it becomes a theme, then I'll, take note. Anyway, thanks for being here. Thanks for tuning in online with us today. Marnie, Rick, and of course, Queen D. And to everybody else watching on the replay, thanks again. See you next time.
It's no secret that medicine is a bit, uptight. That's why Tim and I created BS Free MD, to mix things up a little and have fun in the process. Besides, we are having these exact same discussions all the time, so we thought we might as well invite everyone to the party. If you really like us, you can get plenty more and maybe see one of Tim's cool tattoos on our Instagram or Facebook pages at BS Free MD. See you next time.
to keep BS Free MD as raw and real as possible, we can't be held responsible for any medical decisions or discussions had as a result of what you've heard on the show. We know, bummer. But the truth is, we really do care about your questions. So feel free to reach out to us by email at doc@bsfreemd.com.